Hi, I'm John McQuiston. Welcome to this video tutorial for Canon's Digital Photo Professional 4 software. This is another in a series of videos that will show you how to use DPP4 and the EOS Utility 3. In previous ones, I showed you around the software, how you can organize images with it, and now we get into editing.
I have my Canon Digital Photo Professional 4 software open, and I have found the folder with the images I want to edit. What I do with many of them first is to check them in Quick Check. I can look at the image data with that right there. I can look at the histogram. I can zoom in to check its focus and see how I got him. Looks like he's pretty well done there. I can also rotate the image. I can also add a check number or give it a rating. I talked about organizing images in another video in this series. When I decide this is one that I want to edit, I go back out of Quick Check and I click Edit Image. The first one that comes up is your basic adjustment. This is where I can make the image brighter or darker. I don't think I'm going to change the brightness. I can adjust the white balance. I have a couple of ways I can do that. I can choose from a drop-down menu of different kinds of lighting. And I'm going to try shade. It's going to warm it up just a touch. I kind of like that. You can also fine-tune the color balance either by clicking inside this box here or by sliding either of these two sliders. You have gamma adjustment, which has to do with the luminance of the image. I talk more about that in another video in this series dealing with special image processing, so look for that one. Below that, you have more advanced adjustments where you can change the image's contrast. Now I'm going to boost that just a little bit. You can boost or lower its shadows and highlights, color tone, and I am going to boost the saturation just a touch right here. We won't see it here, but the expanded control of highlight and shadow is a significant advancement in DPP4 from previous versions, and we will see some examples of this in the next video that shows you how this works. You can also adjust here the sharpness of the image, but I'm not going to do that just yet, and here's why. That's because the next tool is for detailed adjustment. Here you can zoom in on a part of the image and make adjustments while seeing the image in detail. You just click this button here next to the sub-window, and then hover over the image. See what happens here? Now, when you have the spot where you want it to stay in that sub-window, click. You notice that turned back to gray, and now this doesn't move when I move the cursor. So you're zoomed in on here. You can reduce your luminance noise or your chrominance noise, but here's where I'm going to adjust my sharpness. I'm going to crank this up to maybe 2, and you get to see a little bit sharper image there. Next, you have your tone or curves adjustment. With this one, you can do a couple of things. RGB here will change the color tone of your entire image. The luminance one gives you control of the brightness and contrast of the image, though you can also control those with the sliders down here at the bottom of the screen. Color adjustment, you can do that here with the RGB individual. For instance, let's choose red, and I'm going to just bow this up, and you'll watch how it turns the image and gives it a real red cast. You come down, take the red away, and you end up with more green. I'm going to boost it just a little bit, give just a touch of a red cast to it. Color adjustment has its own tool, and here you can change the hue and saturation for an entire image or the hue, saturation, and luminance of individual colors. And this is a vastly expanded control of color over previous DPP versions. So we could take red and say boost the saturation. Watch his nose. Look at his nose. So I boost that up. His nose gets really red. Might be too much. I could do a little bit more on the nose there. I could take maybe 1. And maybe a little bit of the blue too. You got some of the blue around his face there. Just touch there. You can always see what you do compared to the original by clicking down here. So the original will be on the left, and now you have what you've done here on the right, and you can see the difference in the color of the two. The stamp tool lets you stamp out blemishes in your image. If you have a spot you want to cover, first of all, let's zoom in, and we'll see, let's say, around his mouth. We have a couple of these, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. It looks like he might have had a mango or something for lunch and has a couple of bits of it still on his lip there. So what we'll do is we'll select Copy Source, and we'll choose some pixels nearby. So right here, let's say. Click there, and then you see it turn, the cursor turns round, and now we can paste right over that one. We'll do the same thing up here. We'll select our copy source. We'll copy from right there, and then we'll copy over that too. Not perfect, but not too bad. So we get rid of the bits of melon he had in his mouth there. If you want to see the difference, you've got these arrows at the bottom. You can go back to the beginning. You see the 2 bits there to the end. So before and after right there with your stamp tool. Next is the crop tool, and this works in a couple of ways. You see the cursor, that the 2 arrows, you can click and turn, and that will change the angle. You've also got this slider right here, does the same thing. And I am going to change the angle just a touch, maybe 2. Straighten that out a little bit. Now once you have the cursor inside the image, where it turns into an arrow, you can click and drag, and then you can also, once you have your area selected, so you can go over here and then drag down and make sure we get all of his foot in the shot that we can. So you have it cropped. And when you go to the next tool, then you'll see the cropped version of the image. This tool is for lens correction. If you see it say lens data down here, no, click the circular arrow to the left, and if you're connected to the internet, you can download the data for the lens you used on the shot. You have another sub-window you can use to zoom in to a part of the image, which we have here again, right around his lips there. If you notice a vignetting, the image is dark around the edges, which is not a factor here. But if you had that in yours, you can adjust the peripheral illumination right here. This helps you get a more even brightness across your entire image. In fact, let me show you this with a different image. I shot this with a wide-angle lens, which is more likely to give you vignetting. And in the shot, you can see the darkness, slight darkness, around the edges. So if I click Peripheral Illumination, which means we will light up the periphery, you'll see it light up. And then you have the slider that lets you adjust how much light you want to add. If you use a wide-angle lens like I did with this photo of a building, you might notice distortion around the edge of the lens. The image bows slightly. When I click Distortion, watch what happens. DPP4 corrects for the distortion, knowing which lens you used. I'll use another photo to demonstrate chromatic aberration. If you zoom in really tight on a defined area like the edge of this fence, see that red there? You might also in some photos see blue or purple. That's chromatic aberration. And I will tell you, I had to work hard to find an example of it because Canon lenses are really good and they don't produce much of it. But if you see it, you just click chromatic aberration and watch. That red line disappears. And you have sliders for red and blue, so you can adjust how much correction you want, but it looks good the way it is, so I'm going to leave it alone. If you have a lot of similar images, you can do batch processing of many images using recipes. You simply copy recipe in the edit menu, and then if you've got other images where you want to make the same kind of color adjustments we did on this one, you can simply paste recipe. As you can imagine, this is a huge time saver. When you've got your image the way you want it, you have several different ways you can save it. First, I can simply save the changes to the CR2 RAW file. So I go to File and then Save. This does not destroy the version that you shot, it just saves the edits you made to it. So it's really cool. So when you open it back up in DPP4, it remembers what you did. You can convert the image and save it. You just click the Save button at the top of the panel. You can change the file name. You can choose where it's going to go. You can choose the file type, whether it's a JPEG or a TIFF or both. I'm going to cancel that right now. If I come back out to my main panel, I can select a number of images or even all of them. If I've worked on those, I can save them and I can do a batch process. See all the ones listed here? They're all going to get saved the same way. I can save them in the same place as the original. I can choose a new folder for all of them. I can choose what file type to use, and I can execute. I won't do that right now. In fact, I'll cancel this. But what's good about this is that it does it in the background One really cool thing about batch processing is that DPP uses a different program to do it. So if you start a batch process, you can work on something else within DPP as the batch process happens in the background. DPP doesn't get tied up even if it has hundreds of files to batch process.
We have another video in this series where I will go into detail on several common situations you might run into when you edit photos. Look for that one, and thank you for watching this one.